Welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. I'm Danielle Van, a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach, meditation teacher, and author, and this is your go-to show for a powerful blueprint to personal growth and empowerment, where we dig into the 5 master areas of your life: emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and financial health and well-being. So if you're tired of feeling stuck and ready to break free through the barriers holding you back, whether it's trauma or you simply don't have the tools, you found the right place. We're combining Eastern and Western medicine with real, raw, unapologetic conversations to shake up your mindset, elevate your life, and help you release the old to become the very best version of yourself. If I say the words rewilding, what does your mind go to? It's a beautiful concept developed and grown by today's guest, Holly Copeland. She has an interesting story about her path to opening the door to her own inner wild, and she wants to teach you how to absolutely dive in, connect with the self, and learn how to ignite your inner wild too. It's a fantastic conversation full of growth tools, this beautiful movement of spirit and alignment, and I can't wait for you to listen. So let's not waste another second. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now, and learn how to ignite your inner wild too. It's a fantastic conversation full of growth tools, this beautiful movement of spirit and alignment, and I can't wait for you to listen. So let's not waste another second. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. It's rare that interviews don't work the way that we think they will. And Holly and I have been trying to do this for several months, actually, in different variations. We were together and having a conversation, and the lights literally went out. And as we come back together today to have this conversation, I realized because we weren't digging deep enough. There was another message that we were supposed to share. So, Holly, welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here.
You. Thank you. I am so glad to be here, and I'm trust deeply in divine timing. So I trust deeply that this is unfolding exactly perfectly, and I'm getting tons of confirmation as I say. Yeah.
Yeah. Really beautiful. Holly, I want you to kind of tell us who you are. You have an interesting story to come to the path that you're in, and then we're going to dive into something that is a lot of what I teach, but never heard it described the way that you just did to me off of the mic. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah. I'm someone who loves the earth deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And as was a child who went camping and just was deeply connected to nature, even though I lived in suburban Los Angeles and then the Bay Area. But my parents would take me camping, and I went to summer camp that just was like my most cherished experience.
Yeah.
And those experiences led me to decide to have a career as an ecologist, as an environmental, I wanted to work in environmental protection, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I, went to college. I got a degree to do that. I went incredibly, got a job with a leading conservation organization, Nature Conservancy. And I did that. I worked for them as an ecologist for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful job. I mean, I had what anybody would call a dream job. As things do when you hit your mid 40s, sometimes life wants you to shake the snow globe.
Oh, yes.
Says,
Oh,
oh,
yes.
all right, that was fun, but
Right.
actually we have something else in plan for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Page turn.
And so all I knew at the time was I had this deep sense of like unsettled, something is amiss. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
understand, but there's something else.
Right.
And I got mold poisoning. So I got a physical illness. My body wasn't well. And
Mm-hmm.
that set me on a path to explore alternative healing, because I tried some conventional methods, but that wasn't really getting anywhere, to be honest.
Right.
And so I started to explore like functional healing and sound healing and different things as a pathway to heal myself primarily at first. I
Mm-hmm.
also started studying plant medicine or experiencing plant medicine.
Yeah.
So I was doing these things, and all of that really upended my life and showed me through that physical healing, actually started to teach me that, how should I describe it? I can't, and I started to study meditation too. I started going down a deep spiritual path, but rather
Mm-hmm.
than kind of we can go back to that, but just to say, as all
Right.
of that unfolded, and then I started to heal, and I started to actually, um, mm, awaken to deeper truths about who I was. I started to see everything differently, and I started to attune to spirit and the planet in a much deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what I came to understand was that I was one of the key things that I was feeling at the time was a sense of burnout and
Yeah.
a sense of like, this is never going to be enough. Like, no matter what I do, I'm not going to, like, there's always some awful crisis. Like, turn the page and there's the next crisis, and turn the page and there's the next crisis. And it felt like
Right.
this thing I couldn't escape. And like, how am I going to ever feel well when, the planet I love so much is hurting so badly? And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I can't get ahead. I can't, like, it'll never be enough. So I was sitting with this like internal crisis of, it'll never be enough. And what the hell is this all for? Why am I
Right.
doing this? Right.
Yeah.
And as I deepened into the spiritual path, and as I started to work with myself and plant medicine and everything, this beautiful path that I now call inner rewilding started to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
What I came to see was that in order to find happiness, like the essential thing that we all want, to
Yeah.
be well, to feel like the planet is well, it was actually a path of falling in love with not only myself as
Mm-hmm.
I am,
Right.
but actually as the earth as she is.
Mm-hmm.
Came to see and understand that we have to love her as she is, like clear cuts and oil spills and all.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
this path is not about a perpetual path of feeling ill, but
Mm-hmm.
is but it's actually a path of the reclamation and belonging that we want is actually about coming to terms with and loving everything as it is.
Mm.
Yeah.
What beautiful words. I smiled at you when you said mold illness. You and I share this.
Mm.
I actually got very, very ill as well in 2001. Didn't share it with the viewers. I was doing the podcast at the time and became very, very ill. In fact, hospitalized multiple times. Went down many paths of trying to find healing myself, still having some, repercussions from that now in 2025. However, where it started your spiritual path, it elevated mine because I was already on it.
Mm.
And I will say, everything that you just described was something that I also experienced. So some of this conversation, this energy flow, I think is also we have a sisterhood that many people do not understand what kind of destruction that does in your body and how it really upends your life. It's
Mhm.
quite interesting. You took it to a new place. I have taken it to a new place. I want to hear more about that feeling of that inner rewilding. That's such a strong term. It gives me chills just to even say it. It's got some resonance to it. You said falling in love with the earth and the self as
Mm.
you are. Kind of give me some principles to this.
Yeah, thank you. So the path actually, as it unfolded, actually, and the principles that the path, the journey that I went on is
Hmm.
actually, I came to see it as comprised of really four core principles.
Yeah.
And I weave them in my book that's going to come out called Inner Rewilding. I weave them as
Yeah.
like a mandala, like four direction.
Mm. Hmm.
So the first principle is awaken.
Yeah.
And, you know, it really just starts at the place we all start, right? Who am
Right.
I? It's like
Mm,
Ramana Maharshi, it's the simple who am I path to understand and recognize that we're not the localized identified self that we take ourselves to be.
right. Yes.
That we have to shed that
We
story.
never are.
Never are.
Never
Right.
are.
And to recognize at the deepest sort of level our essential
Mm,
beingness.
yeah.
And I took the path that I went on was one studying Tibetan Buddhism. So I studied Mahamudra and Dzogchen and the teachers that I work with. And what I love about those paths is that they're beautifully immediate, right? So the
Yeah.
recognition of self is not something that we go sit in a cave for 10 years,
Right.
but because we don't have
Who
time
has
for
time?
that. We don't have time for that.
Who has time for that? I
No,
don't have time for that.
no. So it's the, it's the direct recognition, and I
Mhm.
teach that, but I think you understand the essence.
Yes.
It's the true recognition right here, right now.
Hmm.
We are
Hmm.
all awakened already.
Right.
Our awakened awareness is here, you know, doing, it's here present for everything that's happening.
Right.
The moment we can flip that and flip out of the one who is trying to solve all the problems, the
Mm.
one who thinks that awakening requires healing, you healing,
Mm.
which is a
Yeah.
lie. Like you are already whole, you are already perfect, you are
Hmm.
already awake. That's the central teaching of all the great spiritual traditions, right?
Of course, of course. The one who I want to use a harsher word because I think that we all need it sometimes, right? We never want to lean into negatives, but there's a word here that I think a lot of us, oh, when we hear it, and it's control,
Hmm. Yeah,
right? The
it's
one who
exactly right.
releases the control.
Completely.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And that sense of needing to control our lives is
Mm,
so pervasive for most of us,
right.
so sneaky.
Yeah.
Um, and, it certainly has been for me, to reconcile what surrender is. And that's actually in my mandala, the
Hmm.
the direction of the West is the surrender. So
Right.
it's the allowing. So I started awaken, which is just the immediate recognition.
Right.
Then I moved to the South, the element of fire, which I call attune to the living universe.
Mm.
And so
Hmm.
this is like once we awaken to the truth of our wholeness and goodness,
Right.
then we can start to be in relationship with the universe in a different way.
Yeah.
And for me, this subtle energy, this alive, intelligent universe that we're in relationship with, the Shiva, the Shakti Shiva,
Mhm.
arises as the the living universe, as
Right.
the subtle energy. And when we practice attuning to that, so the reason that attune to me is like when we listen
Hmm.
and can stop talking. Put our
Do we do that?
put our feet on the ground and really,
Hmm.
the ancient practice of just listening.
Yeah.
I go do this every morning now, unless it's raining or snowing. I go
Hmm.
outside and I literally sit on the ground and listen.
Mm.
And that's my
Mm.
meditation. And I have some
Beautiful.
prayers too, and I give gratitude, but it's primarily a practice of listening, of
Hmm.
attuning. Because what I learned is I worked with all the sound healing, I really became interested in frequency and frequency medicine, which is a
Yes.
core thing I work with. And, understanding that these frequencies are weaving,
Yeah.
every
Hmm.
cell, every tissue has a frequency.
Right.
And the universe, the earth, is actually here to support our healing through its frequencies.
Right. Well, even if I may, and I'm sure you can probably speak more to this, even sitting in foresting, right, in trees, we know that they emit their own vibration and own frequency. And to be in that space, the body responds because it is an energetic exchange that's happening. It's a beautiful experience. one that most people don't get the beauty of doing, but even going to a local park and sitting amongst some trees, you're going to
Yeah.
feel different.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you go to it with the understanding that you're an energetic being in an energetic
Hmm.
vehicle, and then you actually bring that intention to connect with the earth and let her bring her healing frequencies into you. And that
Right.
through that power of intention, it's
Right.
so powerful. We activate the healing mechanisms in the earth by just simply attuning to that and
Right.
welcoming that in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the second principle.
Hmm.
So it's like really recognizing that we're not separate from nature, we are nature,
Hmm.
and letting ourselves attune with her.
Right.
Yeah. And then the third one is, as I mentioned, is allow the flow,
Yeah.
and that's really that sacred path of surrender and dropping resistance to what is.
Oof. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
I
mm,
mean, my
mm,
favorite quote on that is Adia Shanti, who
mm.
said, "Enlightenment is simply the end of resistance to what is."
Yeah.
Thank
Boy,
you, Adia.
yeah. I mean, don't we all have to work on resistance? I know I do at times. And, when, how, why, all of those things, which are the beautiful roadblock to exactly what you're asking for every single time. I always have to tell my husband, remember when you pushed, it doesn't come out
Right.
the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this, to me, this shows up as just every time something feels like it's going sideways, whether it was the interview that we, had that
Hmm.
didn't feel like is a perfect example, right? Cut
Right.
us off, and in some, old life, I might have been frustrated or thought,
Yeah.
oh, that's really too bad. In my new orientation, I just go, oh, the universe had different plans for
Hmm.
us.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I do that really with everything. I mean,
Mm.
house that I'm sitting in I was supposed to move in, last summer. It didn't work out. And the person needed the house for an extra 3 months. And it seemed super
Hmm.
inconvenient. But actually, the timing ended up being perfect.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
I just had, but I had to trust deeply, like, because it wasn't
Yeah.
going according to plan. And it's
To the human plan.
the human plan.
To the
Correct.
human plan. Yeah. There's a big thing on social media that's going around. I saw it the other day, and it was a group of two girls talking about how if you just sit in awareness, release resistance, and say everything's working out for us, which we all know that, that saying. And it was sort of there's now a stitch in where somebody is like, I did it. And I've been saying that. And this, and this happened for me. And I can't believe it. And it's exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about when you say, like, no, it's going sideways.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait for why. I'm going to wait
Right.
for the understanding of what you were preparing me for. I'm going to wait for the good outcome because there is some reason in this moment that you're directing me into a new place.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
beautiful.
And I'm fully aware that as I sit here and say this to you, you
Hmm.
know, my dad's friend has brain cancer and has a brain
Right,
tumor,
right,
and so we can talk about the show and kind of laugh about it, but then
right,
somebody has brain cancer.
right.
And, and so there are, you know, bombs and all kinds of,
Hmm.
very extraordinarily challenging things that people are going through.
Absolutely.
And so I say this with like deep sensitivity. Like
Hmm.
I hope everyone listening understands that I understand deeply that there are, horrific,
Hmm.
extraordinarily difficult things that people are facing.
Yep.
And still,
Hmm.
from everything I have experienced and know,
Yeah,
that truth, the essential truth, it's written in the Kabbalah. I mean, it's written in the deepest spiritual truths
yeah,
that, that trust and trusting deeply that we don't understand, but there
right.
is some larger forces, many at work,
Hmm.
Eve,
Hmm.
and it doesn't mean that we become marshmallows and that we
Right.
then and we're going to move to the next path, the fourth pinnacle of the principle. It doesn't mean we become marshmallows, but it does mean that we, through grace, through the power of compassion and
Yeah.
allowing the grace of understanding we're a part of a cosmic ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
that is
Mm-hmm.
working in our favor, miracles do happen.
Yeah.
And that's, it's extraordinary. I mean, it requires extraordinary humility and
Yeah.
extraordinary trust.
It's where resiliency is found, right? When we talk about anyone listening, talking about your dad's friend, talking about my own father who is, battling stage 4 cancer at this point, and as we watch our lives sort of move through these valleys and find places that are so uncomfortable, if you ask those people, what is working for you?
Mhm.
Something beautiful does come out of the conversation. I know when my own stepmother was passing, and we had about 12 hours together before her final breath, and I said, anything, we were talking about regrets. And I said, is there anything you want me to know? And she just said, I want you to not forget to live. I don't think that I did that enough. And I think those are sort of those moments where somebody loses a child and they start the foundation. Somebody has cancer and they use that to heal other people. There's all of these echoes in our lives where we let go and
Yeah.
just be, that
Yeah.
something beautiful comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So beautifully said.
Mm.
Yes. It's like that is the fertile soil of miracles.
Mm. Mm. Say that again.
That is the fertile soil of miracles.
Mm. I'm gonna lock that in my brain. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. Yes, thank you. Okay, so if we're moving to our next direction.
The next direction is align to your wild heart.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So this is where after we do the grand surrender and the grand, I don't understand. And yet here I am in a human body, and I've
Yeah.
chosen, to be here to do this work, which I deeply believe we're
Mm-hmm.
all, co-creators with the universe.
Right.
And so once you surrender and you drop into the energies of the vital life forces moving through,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like you become resonant. This the principle of resonance I talk about a lot, where
Yeah.
our deep heart comes back online and we can
Yeah.
feel. And this is I deeply believe that resonance is the language of the universe speaking to
Mm.
you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you feel that something feels, either it's I love that, or it's a yes, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that expanded feeling in your heart is, that's
Right.
called resonance. That's the
Yeah.
universe saying, go that way.
Yeah.
Follow me.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll show you.
You keep trying to follow the negative. Can you
Right.
just go back over here to
There.
this place? Because this is what I'm
Exactly.
trying to do for you. Like, I know it's not as shiny. I know it doesn't have your attention as much, but could you just go this way?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then, and the more that what I discovered was that the more I just followed my
Mm,
warm heart, big yes resonance, since,
yeah.
the basically that's the path to stepping into being a co-creator with the universe. That's the empowerment. That's where we get to, like, our life gets to be a wildflower garden.
Yeah.
And we really that's where the sweet joy of being human and being alive
Mhm.
is, like getting
Yeah.
to whatever that is for you, whether that's sailing around the world or working, in a food kitchen, in a soup kitchen. It's all the
Right.
same. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Universe doesn't care. There's
Right.
nobody gets like gold medals, extra gold medals because you were the
Yeah. The CEO, here you go.
right.
I've got a
No, no,
spot for
no.
you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and that deeply understanding that if
Hmm.
if your joy is working in a coffee shop serving espresso, God bless you. That
Right.
it's it's that everything is about how you do it.
Hmm.
You know?
and how you do it, how you show up to it, and what you decide is the factor for you in that, if I may add that, right? It reminds me, I'm going to share a funny story, but it's made me giggle for like a week and a half. And so when you say that, I'm like, it's this thing. So a couple of weeks, well, it's been about a month or so ago, I got all of these wildflower packets and I was like, I'm going to plant them in this big open spot in my garden. And hopefully it fills them up and it's just going to be a mix of all of these different wildflowers. And I'm so excited about it. Don't care what it looks like. I just really want to see these wildflowers, bring the bees and all of that. And right now it's this very patchy, out of control looking, not everything came up. It looks like a mess. And none of the flowers have actually popped yet. And my husband was standing out there and he goes, "Come here." And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Did you plant poison ivy?" I was like, "No, I don't think so." And he was like, "Are you sure? Because it kind of looks like that." I was like, No, I didn't." He's like, "Danielle." I was like, "I really didn't." And he was like, I said, "You know what? Even if it was supposed to be wildflowers and even if it is poison ivy, I bet there's a reason for it being planted there and I'm not going to mess with it." And he's like, "No, you're going to make me pull out the poison ivy." I was like, "No, no, I'm not. Just let it be." Well, today when I walked past, it has this perfect little beautiful flower buds that are starting. And I'm like, you know what? Resistance. He was resistant to what it
Mm-hmm.
looked like, but
Mm-hmm.
he let go. He allowed it. He allowed that kind of listening of me who was internally like, "I swear it's going to be wildflowers."
Yeah.
That's sort of that process, right? Is what you're talking about. Very silly example, but it's made me giggle for all week long because I'm like, I
I
promise
love
you
it.
it's not poison ivy.
I love that story. That's so beautiful, right?
It's
And it's like it is the simple stories.
mm-hmm,
It's the ordinariness
mm-hmm,
of our
mm-hmm.
lives. I thought before all of this happened that awakening was like, oh, like
Oh, sure,
angels coming
sure.
down, that it was
Yeah.
this extraordinary thing. And I kept waiting for like
Mm.
that. And I kept feeling like, God, if there are angels, and why don't you just show up in front of me? Why
Yeah.
don't you make this easy? Why is this so hard? A lot of that I had to work through.
Yeah.
A lot of anger about, at
Mm-hmm.
God Source Divine for being so hard to see
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I want this thing called trust. I want to believe that there's more, but I can't seem to find it.
Yeah.
And the path that I was shown that it took me through was incredibly ordinary.
Yeah.
I've never seen an angel. I've never had any
Mm-hmm.
like of those extraordinary, like mystical things.
Yeah.
Ghosts, nothing like that's ever happened to me.
Right.
Um, I have had extraordinary experiences a lot on plant medicine, but they've been,
Mm-hmm.
um, but each time it's like actually very ordinary.
Right.
And so my message is one of like actually falling in love with the beauty that's here, the
Mm-hmm.
extraordinariness
Right.
of our planet and trees and shrubs
Mm-hmm.
and birds
Mm-hmm.
that are singing the song of Source God Divine in
Mm-hmm.
every moment
Right.
if you
Yeah.
open to listen to it. And that's a deep path of patience and surrender
Mm-hmm.
and um, coming back every day, returning every day to letting the universe show you. Every path is going to be different for everybody listening, but the
Right.
universe is speaking to you and is showing you through this principle of resonance, through
Yeah.
what really makes your heart sing.
Mm.
So follow that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of those principles. They are the space to get into a space of not only spirituality, but awakening the self, obviously, as that's your first principle, but also just this self-authority,
Mm,
knowing who I am, having an understanding of, you know, human me, spiritual me, soul level, mind, body, spirit, bringing everything together I think one of the biggest questions that many are going to ask, and of course, you're given so many different tools and tips here, but Holly, from your perspective, where does one start to bring all of
Mhm.
those into that space of connection?
Yeah, thank you. It's a beautiful question. The universe is mirroring back to us in every moment
Mm-hmm.
what our path is. It doesn't, it's
Right.
not trying to hide spirituality or the truth. It's actually showing you in every moment. And so the key, I think, is to feel into deeply what, again, what feels resonant to you.
Right.
Some people may be drawn to a certain type, certain teacher or certain modality,
Mm-hmm.
yoga or kundalini or
Mm-hmm.
a certain type of meditation. And so they're all beautiful paths. There's no, in my
Right.
opinion, it's not one's better than the other. It's
Sure.
more about which ones like feel like a whisper of, go do this, go do that.
Right.
Danielle,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that Kundalini class felt so yummy, you
Right.
know, okay, or, because some are drawn to Tibetan Buddhism or some are drawn to shamanism or,
Mm-hmm.
or Christianity or Judaism. It's
Mm-hmm.
all beautiful. It's more about, how does it make you feel?
Yeah.
If it makes you feel like you've got that warm, expanded heart,
Mm-hmm.
then follow that path, do more of
Mm-hmm.
that. And then I would say, some things that I think are essential are setting yourself up. I mean, every client I work with, I always ask, what's your morning practice?
Mm-hmm.
What does your morning look like? Because every day is a ceremony. And
Yeah.
so, how you begin your day, do you have a practice? Whether
Right.
it's, mine's evolved, it's grown.
Sure.
It started with an hour-long silent meditation at some
Yeah.
point. Now it's got more prayer and mantra in it, so
Right.
it's evolved. But what has stayed consistent is I have an altar, I have a place,
Mm-hmm.
um, a candle that I light every morning and
Right.
practices that I do to bring me back into starting the ceremony of the day.
Right.
And I really feel that that is an essential part of because you're trying to cultivate you're wanting to come into deeper relationship with
Right.
self and the planet. But
Mm-hmm.
if you wake up with the phone and you start engaging with the outside world and you don't give yourself any time
Right.
to center and ground
Mm-hmm.
in your own being, then it's
Yeah.
going to be very hard you're
Yeah.
going to get lost in other people's voices.
I love that you said that and the way that you said it. Lost in other people's voices. I know for me, if I pick up my phone after I turn the alarm off and I'm like, oh, what do I have to do today or whatever, I will take myself into my meditation space and I am not present. I am
Mm-hmm.
thinking about, oh, I need to do this and I need to do that. And I must check this email and, oh, I was going to do that. And then there's a block
Yeah.
in the self, right? There's this very human Danielle that needs to take care of business.
Right.
But if I turn the alarm off, flip the phone upside down, walk away from it and or take it with me just for some meditation music,
Right.
I am connected, I am flowing, I am happier throughout my day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's very well said. I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
And I have at times, I think if you really are feeling like you wake up and there's just your head is a buzz with the things to do, then
Mm-hmm.
just have, spend 3 minutes in bed with a little sheet of paper, a little
Mm-hmm.
pad and a pen, and just make a
Right.
list of the things that you have to do so that your mind is
Right.
happy that they're written down and you won't forget.
Right. Or do it the night before,
Or do it the
right?
night before.
Do it
Right.
the night before
Right.
because I promise you're also going to sleep better because it's
Exactly.
not sitting in the consciousness trying to, get your attention again. But yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, the self-connection is huge. We talked a little bit about meditation last time. Let's kind of go down that path. I know it was a massive experience and healing for you. It also was for me. A lot of
Mhm.
people that listen here have, written beautiful emails saying, hey, I didn't think meditation was all that important, but I sat, like you said, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and wow, that's a big difference. And now I'm 20, 30, 40 an hour into it. I'm like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
even care though that it's 60 minutes. Were you
Mhm.
connected? Were you
Mhm.
connected?
Mhm.
Yeah. Want
So
to talk about
true.
your, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was one of those people who came to this practice who,
Hmm.
not like I couldn't meditate, quote unquote. I
Yeah.
wanted to. So I've been sort of spiritual my whole life. I've been
Right.
interested in spirituality, and I'd never been able to have a real committed meditation practice
Hmm.
because my busy mind, every time I sat down, felt like
Yeah.
I don't even understand what I'm doing. Am I doing it right? And
Right.
what am I supposed to be doing? And so, as a part of this shift, that I went through, I did meet some incredible meditation teachers and did get,
Hmm.
I actually think having a meditation teacher is so beautiful as a place to start,
Agreed.
because it isn't something that's necessarily natural to the Western mind
Right.
at
Yeah.
all. And
Right.
trying to sort of do it yourself and figure it out yourself is challenging. So whether
It's
it's a
hard.
community, yeah, I really recommend connecting with someone,
Hmm.
meditation.
Agreed.
And then so I had some teachers I worked with. I did, as we talked about, I actually got this device called the Muse,
Uh-huh.
which is it's like training wheels for your mind. It's a biofeedback device.
Yeah.
And with this device, when you put it on, it measures your brain waves. And if your brain's super busy, then you'll hear a lot of rain. And as your brain quiets, the rain
Mm.
quiets.
Hmm.
And for me, it was like, as the sort of classic Western science mind, I found it really helpful to have
Hmm.
that feedback. And I used it actually monitoring my brain waves and going deep into, like, I even went into, like, okay, can I map the moments of insight and see, like, the gamma brain waves
Wow.
coming online?
Right.
Like, I got really deep into it. Uh,
Hmm.
and it was super helpful. And then I, eventually kind of didn't need it anymore. And so it's sort of like
Right.
training wheels. And now I don't use it, but it was very helpful. And, I explored different paths. I think having a basic level, Dan Brown, the famous meditation teacher, one
Yeah.
of the things he says is good enough concentration.
Absolutely. That's how
Yeah.
I teach meditation too, right? Like, if you think you're going to calm that monkey mind, you have lost your absolute mind because it's not actually meant to be calmed all the time, and especially for a great length of time. It's not even calm when you're sleeping. Like,
Right.
please
Right.
understand this.
It's meditation is not about calming the mind.
Yes.
Yes.
Ah,
It is a happy byproduct when you continue doing it. My mind,
right.
I would say, is objectively far, far calmer than it ever used to be.
Oh, 100%.
So
I,
yeah, it's a result, but you can't go after it. It's an outcome, but you can't go after it as the means. You will,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, what happens too, and I'm sure you could probably agree in your own experience. I know for me, and all the people I've worked with, this is the same. If I was going for the outcome, the objective, I'd become disappointed because I wasn't able to get there every single time. And then it's
right.
like, well, I'm doing it wrong, or something's wrong with me, or I just couldn't do it. And I'm like, it's a very small window that it happens. So it's
Mhm.
great if you can get there. The likelihood of you getting there every single day, you are a superstar. And I think that you deserve all the gold, medals. I can't. I personally
Yeah,
can't, but
yeah,
that's okay.
yeah, yeah. A hundred
Yeah.
percent. A teacher said to me once, one of my teachers said, there is no such thing as a bad meditation.
Mm, mm, I like that. Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
I've had a few, but
And it really
right.
validates what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
The quality of meditation will
Yeah.
shift and change. We've, all had
Yeah.
like amazing deep meditation. No, no, I
Uh-huh.
would say we've all had. If you have had
Yeah.
very deep meditation experiences, then there can be, of course, a trying to chase that
Uh-huh.
experience.
Yeah,
But then, of
absolutely.
course, now we're chasing experience, and that's not what meditation is about.
Right. Exactly.
It's not what the
Exactly.
path is about. It's
Right.
not an experience. Awakening isn't an experience.
Right. I think
Yeah.
it goes back to your whole point, which is to feel your way into the moment. It's the resonance, right?
It's
Yeah.
bringing energetic coherence and resonance into the physical body, into this energetic vehicle, and
Mm-hmm.
then really just resting in that coherence
Right.
and seeing what, you know, it's just resting and letting go. And then at
Mm-hmm.
that point, messages or downloads may come through. I know that for myself, I get a lot of clarity. And then
Yeah.
there's that kind of clarity followed by some insights,
Right.
and but I really feel like the magic is in the coherence and the resonance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
For everybody listening, I want to kind of explain the term coherence. It's actually something that I've talked about. It's actually something I've studied quite a bit because I wanted to understand how meditation connected to the nervous system and how it changed gray matter and what was really happening. So coherence is where we are bringing our brain waves and our breath pattern together and we're working in a very beautiful, tangible way. There's a lot of incredibly long scientific terms and ways to like really break coherence down. I'm looking at my pulse, my breath, my nervous system. It's what I'm looking at. And is it functioning at a equal and calm centered level? That's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love that way of describing it. And
Yeah.
I too appreciate like simplifying. You can go deep as you want to go in the
Oh, yeah.
science, but at the end of the day, it's a very simple
Yeah.
process of bringing the nervous system, the heart, brain
Hmm.
into a resonant, coherent, balanced state,
Right.
balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic.
Right.
And then I saw this in my brainwave maps. So as I was doing the working with the muse and mapping the brain, I could actually see that at deep moments of insight, there was left brain, right brain coherence.
Hmm.
It was really extraordinary to 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 see it in,
Yeah.
because I'm a geek and I like to see the science too.
I'm with you. I'm totally geeky. I think I shared with you last time, and I know I've shared it here. Maybe. I think I have. I had an MRI on my shoulder a few years ago, and I was meditating. I'm not somebody who is bothered by a tight tube, but there was something about that day that was extremely loud in there. I was getting a little overwhelmed. So I was like, I'm just going to meditate and bring myself into a state of okay, regardless of what's happening around me. Of course, it was difficult because if you've ever had an MRI, it's very loud. And about midway through, the tech came in and was like, "You asleep?" I was like, "No, I'm meditating." And they could actually see it because they were,
Mhm.
they were getting my head too. So they could see the expansion of what was happening while I was meditating and they thought I was asleep. So
Fascinating.
it was
Fascinating.
interesting. I was like, I
Yeah.
want a copy of that. It was
Yes.
so interesting. So you really do. We can see it when we get
Yes.
into coherence. So, okay, so we have our modality, we have our ability to look at these principles. We know meditation is a beautiful practice that allows us to get into that residency with ourselves, with the universe, with the world around us. Are there a few couple other practices that you suggest, just whatever off the top of your mind to help us really become centered in that mind, body, and even spirit
Yeah.
framework?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that question. I love working with tuning forks.
Mm-hmm.
So I use tuning forks on myself personally. I
Mm-hmm.
studied with Eileen McCusick. I think tuning forks are very like you can get a C and a G fork and you can put them on either side of your head. And
Yeah.
basically that brings your body into, it's the perfect fifth. So it's that interval.
Right.
Eileen also sells some grounding tuning forks on the Biofield Tuning website that like bring the body into grounding.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of using, and I use them personally, of using sound tools
Mm-hmm.
with the body. That's one, I guess, avenue that I can
Yeah.
recommend as a beautiful path. I guess, and I also just have to say, because because we touched on it, but just to say, of course, earthing, going
Yeah.
outside, finding a spot in nature.
Hmm.
So, the free, it's free.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't need any special equipment.
Yeah.
And it's right here, most
Hmm.
people have access to at least a park,
Yeah.
you don't live
Yeah.
in a rural setting. Yeah, music, sound, nature, breath, breath,
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
would be kind of the third pinnacle or third leg of that
Yeah.
triangle.
Yeah.
I actually lead breathwork sessions, like deep, 2 hour
Hmm.
experiences,
Wow.
with people that are so profound. I mean, the power of the breath
Yeah.
to regulate our nervous systems is, I had no idea until I started getting into breath work. And now I just led one this weekend, and it was extraordinary to the women that were there, to come out of that and go, my God, that was so profound. All I was doing was breathing,
Right.
and they were
Yeah.
having these deep experiences. It really helps you
Hmm.
access the subconscious when you're doing
Right.
deep breath work and regulate the body. Um,
Hmm.
but even just a box breath, a 4-4-4-4 box breath, or a
Yeah.
6-8 breath, 6 in, 8 out, that elongated breath, as I'm sure you're
Hmm.
aware,
Yeah.
regulates the parasympathetic. So I'm a huge fan of breath work. Yeah, those are some key tools that I use. Yeah.
Yeah. Same. It's interesting because I think we all know that the majority of us do not breathe correctly anyway. We have very shallow breath. We have our inhales and exhales mixed up. We don't actually bring our breath down to the diaphragm. There's lots of different things. And, for a lot of people that work with me, they begin to, outside of therapy,
Yeah.
go, "Oh, wow, I'm practicing this and I didn't realize I didn't breathe. I wasn't breathing, right?" Or how I'm naturally just taking a step back now and taking an inhale and people are going, "What's wrong?"
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm good. I'm actually just making sure I stay centered. And how beautiful that is. And it is the way to get into residence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
definitely.
absolutely is. And then I
Yeah.
guess maybe the last thing I'll mention is I am very interested in alternative healing modalities.
Mm.
And one that I've come across recently that I'm very excited about, I'm reaching down to grab it, something called Life Wave. And these are patches. I'm going to hold one up so you can
Okay.
see, but these are
Yeah.
patches that,
Yeah. I think I've seen them, but I don't know
yeah.
much about it. Okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm so of really literally of all the sort of alternative healing things I've done, I'm probably most excited about this one. I am.
Really?
Yeah. So what it is it's made up of a crystalline structure. There's no medicine in this. It's non-transdermal. So when you wear it, it's a
Okay.
sticker. When you wear it, there's no medicine.
Okay.
But what it does is it reflects your body's own light back to itself.
Hmm.
And in doing so, this is a stem cell patch called the X39. It activates stem cells in your body. So it activates your body's own natural healing processes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is so interesting. The man who created it, David Schmidt, has been working on it. The company's actually 20 years old,
Wow.
but this patch is 5 years old. He's got 80 clinical studies on this, so it's actually got
Wow.
some good science behind it,
Yeah.
credible testimonials. And, it was Albert Einstein who said future medicine will be the medicine of frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
also work with, of course, we talked about sound,
Right.
but I really think we're at the light is like the new
The
healing,
cusp. Yeah.
right? And of
Mm-hmm.
course, everybody's into red light therapy and infrared, and me too. I
I
love
have it
those
in my
things.
home. Yep.
Yeah. But I
Yep.
feel like this is actually, you wear one a day. After 24 hours, you've got 4,000 new stem cells, and it just keeps going from
Wow.
there. And he also has patches for detoxification. So he has a glutathione patch,
Right.
which for my mold illness,
That was,
yep,
yep.
I've been working. And the patch, what I learned was that the glutathione patch actually increases glutathione in the body by 300%.
Wow.
you're somebody who knows anything about the
Yeah.
oral increases it by about 30%, 10, 20 to 30%. So it's hugely powerful.
Yeah.
There's also an anti-inflammation patch
Right.
that is incredible for stress and any autoimmune conditions. And,
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't have that? Any kind of inflammatory
Yeah.
things, it's incredible for, and in combination with the stem cell patch, it's just a miracle. So,
Very interesting to see kind of, especially with the clinical trials,
yeah,
there's information, there's study, there's science behind it. It's
yeah.
huge. That's amazing. Okay,
Mhm.
so go to the show notes and take a look at that. We are running out of time, but I do want to ask you this very important question. What do you think that we are missing? Meaning, what's the thing that you wish people knew beyond what we've been talking about, or maybe in included to what we've been talking about, that allows us to get into a space of really elevating our experience?
Such a beautiful question. Let me just feel into this. What are people missing? I just come back to, the sweetness and the kindness of your own heart and your own
Hmm.
being.
Hmm.
Like, it's so tender. Like, I feel such a tenderness for each and every human, and
Hmm.
what it is to, do these complicated lives that we have, and, raising families and supporting families and all of the things. And I think it's like having such deep compassion for ourselves
Hmm.
and in this experience,
Yeah.
and like it's like grace.
Mm-hmm.
It's grace for ourselves, and like being like easy, compassion and grace.
Hmm.
It's like we keep giving it out to everyone else, but we
Yes.
forget to actually give it to ourselves.
And we get uncomfortable when we try because it's
Mm-hmm.
not innate. And we've also been told that it's selfish
Mm-hmm.
and that we shouldn't give to ourselves and we only give what is available after we've done for everyone else. And no matter where you look in any kind of text, that's actually backwards. It says we give from the overflow.
Exactly. Yes. And
That's
so,
it.
yes, that's it. So if you're not feeling the overflow,
Hmm.
if that's not where you are, then I go back to, the airplane rules, put on your own
Hmm.
oxygen mask first.
Right.
And so that's a sign from the universe that you need to pause and stop, and really, it's really inviting you back into right relationship with yourself first, kindness to your own being first. And it, it can be in the form of, I don't want you to just take away, this means more baths or more, I mean, those things are nice, but I think it's actually the criticism, the judgment, the harshness that we have in our inner voice and our inner dialogue, that's where we're most in crisis. We shame ourselves, we guilt ourselves, we feel badly for XYZ thing. And it's coming back into right relationship with our own heart, and being gentle and kind with ourselves.
So important. I mean, just to even just make that the statement, right? That the end cap of everything, to be gentler, kinder, to have grace, to go back to the very beginning, to have resonance, trust, safety with the self, to have a communion with
Mm-hmm.
the body
Mm-hmm.
and the spirit and our experience in world and the world itself. I mean, there's so much to it. It's such a
Yeah,
beautiful echo. And when we live that way, there is an experience of fullness. And that's what we're
absolutely.
going for. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll cap it off with this, sort of classic statement that you've heard. We see the world not as it is, but as we are.
Hmm.
And what I'll end with is, my lack of ability to see the beauty in the outside world,
Yeah.
nothing to do with there was no beauty in the outside world.
Hmm.
It had
Hmm.
to do with that I couldn't feel the beauty in my own heart.
Hmm. I agree. It made me think of my son when he was a preemie and he was born without his right eye muscle fully formed.
Mm.
And so I began to notice when he was younger that he would move my face towards him when I spoke to him. And I thought maybe he's having hearing problems. So I took him to the doctor and he said, no, I think it's his vision. And take him immediately to the eye doctor. And they're like, yeah, there's some issues. And technically he's legally blind in that eye, but he does have sight in it. And they gave him the cutest pair of glasses. And the first thing he said as he grabbed my hand and walked out, he said, Mommy, the trees have green leaves on them. And I said, Did you not see that before? And he said, No, I didn't know they were there. It wasn't that they weren't there, it was that he didn't have sight. Right? I think about that a
Yes.
lot. Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Mm-hmm.
really beautiful story.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes. It's not that the world isn't a magical, extraordinary place.
Mm-hmm.
It's that
Mm-hmm.
we can't see it.
Right? We can't.
And the
It,
thing that is blocking is all the things we talked about, the guilt, the shame, the
mm-hmm.
criticism, the judgment, all whatever story your parents told you about,
Yeah.
you know, who you were that was a lie.
Yeah.
It's undoing all those knots and that is grace. Yeah.
All day long.
All
In
day long.
every way. In every way. In every way. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Well, Holly, we actually made it through our conversation, which is beautiful because it was the right conversation. So I would love for you to entertain us if you would, as you know that we in the podcast asking the same thing, which is, would you please share your three things that you are most grateful for right now?
Oh, golly. Mm. Well, firstly, I'm most grateful for beautiful conversations
Mhm.
and this community and to be
Yeah.
invited into your community.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, like this lights me up, like being in
Yeah,
relationship with another human and sharing the experience. This is what it's all about, right?
it is.
So I'm super grateful for the invitation and to be in relationship with all of you and all your listeners. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm super grateful for planet Earth. I'm
Mhm.
super grateful for her patience with us,
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
unconditional love. Just like the ocean refuses no river,
Right.
she will never refuse us.
Right.
And no matter how we, treat her, she will show up in unconditional love
Yeah.
always. Like, I'm
Yeah.
here for you. And so I'm just so deeply grateful that, the earth energy, this universe,
Yeah.
is here holding us and supporting us as we work out our human things, as we go on
Mhm.
this grand human adventure. Grateful for love, grateful for
Mm.
the miracle of love. And,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
you know, I was shown, I had the experience in a plant medicine journey where the entire universe was love, and I was that too.
Mm.
There was and it was all collapsed, so I could actually, because there is no time and space, I
Mhm.
could understand and feel love in I want to use human words because I don't know how else to describe it, in every corner
Right.
of the universe.
Mhm.
And it was so unbelievably extraordinary, and it just left me with this unending trust that at the base of
Yeah.
everything is
Mhm.
is truly, what we call love, which is just,
Right.
God source divine. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It is the message that I hope that you take away, everyone, that doesn't matter your life experience, doesn't matter where you were raised, doesn't matter what color you are, what gender you are, what you believe in, what has been the echo the whole time that you have been on this earth. Fundamentally, we're the same. And we have that ability to show up in that way when we live from that fundamentalness. And I believe that's what you're talking about, Holly, and talking about this wilding. It's such a beautiful term, such a beautiful thought to be able to kind of knock down the doors that we've put around ourselves and get back to our true nature. So
Mm.
I want to thank you so much for your expertise, the conversation, your energy, and hanging with me as we made it to this space. And what a beautiful conversation. So thank you so much.
Ah, thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
You know, I always say this, that it's such a great conversation, but it's true. What a beautiful moment of expression, of that understanding that we all have the ability to lock into who we really are, to give ourselves permission to ignite something within us that truly is life-changing, that inner rewilding. So beautiful. We're going to put all of Holly's information in the show notes, so please visit it, or you can visit her website at Holly Copeland, COPELAND.co, to find out more information and connect with her. I want to thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you've enjoyed these tips for bettering your life, please follow me on social media if you're not already at Get Your Life Together Girl. You can do that on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Lemonade, YouTube, and also join me on Monday mornings at 9 a.m. Central on Insight Timer, where we have live conversations just like this. You can join the Ask a Therapist group there on Insight Timer and ask questions at any time and join the beautiful community there. It is a free app. If you're not already there, go there now. Also, please feel free to check out my website at getyourlifetogethergirl.com, where you'll find my blog, merch, more conversations just like this one, meditations, and so much more. I really, truly want to thank you so much for being such a valuable part of this community and joining us each week. Until we meet again, be kind to yourself and others.